The morning sun cast long shadows across the military base as Corporal Marcus Williams stood in front of his commanding officer's desk. His uniform was pressed to perfection, every button polished until it gleamed. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of soldiers training outside. Colonel Patterson looked up from his papers with serious eyes. Marcus had served under him for 3 years and had never seen his commander look so grave. The weight of something important hung in the air between them like a thick fog. "Corporal Williams," the colonel began, his voice steady but soft. "I have a very special assignment for you. This is not like any other duty you have performed before." Marcus straightened his shoulders and nodded. He had completed many difficult missions during his time in the military. He had served overseas, protected important people, and handled dangerous situations. But something about the colonel's tone told him this was different. "Private David Chen was killed in action 3 days ago," Colonel Patterson continued. "He was only 22 years old, a good soldier who died serving his country far from home." The colonel paused and looked directly at Marcus. "His family has requested military escort for his remains. You have been chosen to bring Private Chen home to his family in Ohio. This is one of the most important duties a soldier can perform." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders like a heavy blanket. He had heard about escort duty before, but had never been selected for such an honor. To escort a fallen soldier home was considered sacred work among military personnel. "Sir, I understand the importance of this mission," Marcus replied. "I will treat Private Chen with the highest respect and ensure his family receives the honor they deserve." Colonel Patterson stood up and walked around his desk. He placed a folder in Marcus's hands. Inside were all the details about Private Chen's life, his service record, and information about his family. There were photos of a young man with a bright smile, wearing his dress uniform with pride. David Chen joined the army to serve his country and help his family, the colonel explained. He sent most of his pay home to help his parents with their small restaurant. He wanted to go to college after his service and become a teacher. He was a good man who deserved better than to die so young. Marcus opened the folder and studied the photographs. Private Chen looked so young, barely older than Marcus's own younger brother. He had kind eyes and the same determined expression that Marcus had seen in many soldiers who truly cared about their duty. "His parents are immigrants who came to America 30 years ago," Colonel Patterson continued. "They worked hard to build a life here. David was their only son, their pride and joy. His sister Sarah is a nurse in the same town where the funeral will be held." The colonel handed Marcus another set of papers. These contained the route he would take, the schedule for the journey, and contact information for the funeral home and family members. "You will drive from here to Ohio," the colonel said. "The journey will take 2 days. You will stop overnight at Fort Campbell, where arrangements have been made for you, and for Private Chen to rest with proper military honors." Marcus nodded and carefully placed all the documents in his jacket pocket. He understood that this was not just about driving from one place to another. This was about ensuring that a hero received the respect and dignity he had earned through his sacrifice. "The family is expecting you on Thursday morning," Colonel Patterson added. "The funeral is scheduled for Friday. You will stay until after the burial to ensure everything is handled properly." As Marcus prepared to leave the office, the colonel called his name one more time. "Corporal Williams," he said quietly, "remember that you are not just transporting remains. You are bringing someone's son home. You are carrying the hopes, dreams, and love of a family who will never see their boy alive again. Handle this duty with the honor it deserves." The black military vehicle moved slowly through the quiet streets of Millbrook, a small town in southern Ohio. Marcus Williams kept his speed exactly at the limit, his hand steady on the steering wheel. Behind him, covered with an American flag, lay the casket of Private David Chen. The afternoon sun filtered through the windows, casting gentle light across the flag's red, white, and blue fabric. Marcus had been driving for 6 hours since leaving Fort Campbell that morning. The journey had been peaceful so far, with other drivers showing respect when they noticed the military escort. Some had even pulled over and placed their hands over their hearts as he passed. These moments reminded Marcus why his mission was so important. The GPS on his dashboard showed he was only 30 minutes away from the Chen family's town. Marcus felt a mix of emotions, knowing he would soon complete his sacred duty. He thought about the conversation he would have with Private Chen's parents and sister. He had practiced what he would say, but he knew no words could truly ease their pain. As Marcus approached a traffic light in the center of Millbrook, he noticed a police car following behind him. The officer had been there for about 2 miles, staying a respectful distance back. Marcus assumed the local police were simply being cautious about the military vehicle, which was normal procedure in many small towns. The light turned red, and Marcus came to a complete stop. He checked his mirrors and adjusted his uniform jacket. Everything had to be perfect when he met the Chen family. He owed that much to Private Chen, and to the military tradition he represented. Suddenly, red and blue lights flashed behind him. Marcus looked in his rearview mirror and saw the police officer getting out of his car. The officer was a large man with a stern expression, wearing dark sunglasses despite the cloudy afternoon. His movements seemed aggressive and impatient. Marcus carefully pulled over to the side of the road, making sure to park safely away from traffic. He rolled down his window and placed both hands on the steering wheel where they could be clearly seen. He had been trained in proper procedures for interactions with civilian law enforcement. Officer Dale Murphy approached the driver's side window with heavy footsteps. His face showed no respect or curiosity about the military vehicle or its obvious purpose. Instead, he looked angry and suspicious, as if Marcus had committed some serious crime. License and registration, Murphy demanded without any greeting or explanation for the stop. Marcus spoke calmly and respectfully. "Good afternoon, officer. I am Corporal Marcus Williams of the United States Army. I am conducting a military escort mission. My identification is in my jacket pocket. May I reach for it slowly?" Murphy's expression grew even more hostile. "I don't care what you claim to be. I asked for your license and registration. Hand them over now." Marcus remained patient and professional. "Sir, I understand you are doing your job. I am escorting the remains of a fallen soldier to his family for burial. All of my paperwork is in order, and I am happy to show you my military identification." "Get out of the vehicle," Murphy ordered, his hand moving toward his weapon. "Now." Marcus felt his heart rate increase, but he kept his voice steady. "Officer, may I ask why you are stopping me? I was not speeding, and I followed all traffic laws. This is a military escort vehicle carrying a deceased service member." Murphy's face turned red with anger. "Are you questioning my authority? I said get out of the car. Don't make me ask again." Other drivers began to slow down and watch the scene unfold. Some pulled over to see what was happening. Marcus could see confusion and concern on their faces as they noticed the flag-draped casket visible through the vehicle's rear window. Marcus slowly opened his door and stepped out, keeping his movements careful and deliberate. He was a tall, dignified man in his perfectly pressed uniform, but Murphy treated him like a common criminal. The contrast between Marcus's respectful behavior and Murphy's aggressive attitude was obvious to everyone watching. "Put your hands on the car," Murphy commanded, reaching for his handcuffs. Marcus complied while speaking clearly so nearby witnesses could hear. "Officer, I am United States Army Corporal Marcus Williams. I am conducting an official military escort for Private David Chen, who died serving our country. His family is waiting for us." But Murphy seemed to hear nothing except his own anger and prejudice. Officer Murphy circled around Marcus like a predator, his boots heavy on the pavement. More cars had stopped along the roadside, and people were getting out to watch what was happening. Some held up their phones, recording the strange scene of a police officer harassing what was clearly a military escort. "What's in the back of this vehicle?" Murphy demanded, moving toward the rear of the car where Private Chen's casket lay covered by the American flag. Marcus turned his head, alarm clear in his voice. "Sir, That is the remains of Private David Chen, a fallen soldier. Please show respect for the deceased and his family." Murphy ignored Marcus's words completely. He walked to the back window and peered inside, his face showing no sign of understanding or respect. The American flag was perfectly folded and positioned, just as military protocol required. The casket beneath was polished wood with brass handles, clearly a military burial casket. "How do I know what's really in there?" Murphy said loudly, making sure the growing crowd could hear him. "Could be drugs, could be weapons. I need to search this vehicle thoroughly." An elderly man in the crowd called out, "Officer, that's clearly a military funeral. Can't you see the flag and the uniform?" Murphy spun around and pointed at the man. "Stay back and mind your own business, or you'll be joining him in handcuffs." 2 more police cars arrived at the scene, their lights flashing. Officers Jennifer Walsh and Tom Rodriguez stepped out and immediately looked confused by what they saw. They had worked with Murphy before and knew he could be difficult, but this situation seemed different. Officer Walsh approached Murphy carefully. "Dale, what's the situation here?" "Suspicious vehicle," Murphy replied without taking his eyes off Marcus. "Driver was acting nervous, gave me attitude when I tried to do my job." Marcus spoke up, his voice still calm but firm. "Officers, I am Corporal Marcus Williams, conducting a military escort. I have all proper documentation. I was not acting suspicious, and I have been respectful throughout this encounter." Officer Rodriguez looked at the military vehicle, then at Marcus in his dress uniform, then at the flag-draped casket visible through the window. His expression showed he understood something was very wrong with this stop. "Dale," Rodriguez said quietly, "this looks like a legitimate military escort. Maybe we should." "I don't need you telling me how to do my job," Murphy snapped. "I'm the senior officer here, and I say we search everything." Murphy walked back to the rear of the vehicle and put his hand on the handle of the door. "I'm opening this up to see what's really going on." Marcus took a step forward, his military training overriding his desire to stay calm. "Officer, I must respectfully request that you not disturb the remains of a fallen soldier. Private Chen died serving his country, and his family is waiting for him to come home." "Back off," Murphy shouted, pushing Marcus roughly in the chest. "You don't tell me what I can and cannot do." The crowd gasped as they watched Murphy assault the uniformed soldier. Several people shouted protests, and more phones came out to record the incident. An older woman in the crowd began crying as she watched the disrespectful treatment of both Marcus and the flag-covered casket. Officer Walsh stepped between Murphy and Marcus. "Dale, stop. This has gone far enough. Look around you. Look at what you're doing." But Murphy was too angry to listen to reason. Years of prejudice and a lifetime of using his badge to bully people had brought him to this moment. He could not see past his own hatred to understand the sacred nature of what he was destroying. "Get out of my way, Walsh," Murphy snarled. "This is my stop, my decision." Marcus straightened his uniform jacket and looked directly at Murphy. Despite being pushed and threatened, his voice remained steady and dignified. "Officer Murphy, my name is Corporal Marcus Williams. I have served my country for 6 years. The young man in that casket served his country too, and he died for it. I am asking you, one American to another, to please show some respect." The crowd had grown to nearly 30 people now. Some were veterans who recognized the significance of what they were witnessing. Others were simply decent people who understood that something wrong was happening. Murphy looked around at all the watching faces and recording phones. Instead of backing down, his anger grew stronger. He felt cornered and embarrassed, which made him even more dangerous. A young woman pushed through the crowd, her face wet with tears and her hands shaking. She wore scrubs from the local hospital and had clearly been driving home from work when she saw the commotion. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and her eyes were filled with a mixture of grief and anger. "Stop," she called out in a voice that cut through all the noise. "Please stop what you are doing." Murphy turned toward her with irritation. "Lady, I told everyone to stay back. This is police business." The woman walked closer, ignoring Murphy's warning. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. "My name is Sarah Chen. The soldier in that car is my brother David. He died 3 weeks ago in Afghanistan, and this man is bringing him home to us." The entire crowd fell silent. Even Murphy stopped moving, though his face still showed anger rather than understanding. Sarah Chen looked directly at Marcus with gratitude in her eyes, then turned to face Murphy with fierce determination. "My brother was 22 years old," Sarah continued, her voice carrying across the street. "He joined the army because he wanted to serve his country and help our family. He sent money home every month to help our parents with their restaurant. He wrote letters to me every week telling me about the friends he made and how proud he was to wear the uniform." She pointed at the flag-draped casket visible through the vehicle's window. "That is my little brother in there. He died protecting people he never met, in a country thousands of miles from home. And this soldier, this good man, has driven hundreds of miles to bring David back to us with honor and respect." An older veteran in the crowd stepped forward. He wore a baseball cap with military patches and walked with a slight limp. "Young lady, I am sorry for your loss. Your brother was a hero." He turned to face Murphy, his voice firm despite his age. "Officer, I served in Vietnam. I know what it means to bring a fallen soldier home. This is sacred duty. What you are doing here is wrong." More people in the crowd began to speak up. A middle-aged woman called out, "I have a son in the military. How would I feel if someone treated him this way?" A teenager with his phone held high said, "This is all being recorded, officer. Everyone can see what you are doing." Murphy looked around at the faces surrounding him. Instead of backing down, he seemed to grow more stubborn and angry. "I don't care who any of you people are. I have a job to do, and I am going to do it." Officer Rodriguez walked over to Sarah Chen. "Ma'am, I am truly sorry for your loss and for what is happening here. This is not how our department normally handles situations like this." Sarah wiped her eyes and looked at Rodriguez. "I have been following the escort for the last 50 miles. I wanted to be there when David arrived home. Instead, I find your officer treating the man who is honoring my brother like he is a criminal." Officer Walsh approached Murphy one more time. "Dale, you need to stop this right now. Look at what is happening. Look at these people. This family has lost their son, and you are making their pain worse." But Murphy pushed Walsh away. "I am not backing down. I started this stop, and I am going to finish it properly." Marcus had remained quiet during most of the conversation, but now he spoke directly to Sarah Chen. "Miss Chen, I want you to know that your brother was treated with complete respect during this entire journey. I understand this situation is difficult, but I promise you that I will complete my mission and bring David home to your family." Sarah nodded through her tears. "Thank you, Corporal Williams. My parents are waiting at the funeral home. They have been so grateful that the Army sent someone to escort David home. They prepared special food to thank you for your service to our family." The contrast between Sarah's gratitude and Murphy's hostility was clear to everyone watching. The crowd had grown to more than 50 people now, and many were taking pictures and videos. Local news reporters had started to arrive, alerted by social media posts about the incident. Murphy saw the cameras and reporters approaching. Instead of realizing he should end the confrontation, he seemed to double down on his aggressive behavior. "Everyone back up," Murphy shouted. "I am conducting official police business, and anyone who interferes will be arrested." But the damage was already done. The truth was out, the witnesses had spoken, and the whole incident was being recorded for the world to see. A black sedan pulled up behind the police cars, moving slowly through the crowd of onlookers. An elderly Asian man and woman stepped out, both dressed in their best clothes. The woman carried a small bouquet of white flowers, and the man held a folded American flag that had been given to them at the notification ceremony weeks earlier. Sarah Chen ran to them immediately. "Mom, Dad, I am so sorry you have to see this." The couple looked confused and frightened by all the commotion. Mr. Chen spoke in accented English, his voice soft but clear. "Sarah, what is happening? Where is the soldier who is bringing David home?" Sarah pointed to Marcus, who was still standing beside his vehicle with his hands visible, maintaining his military bearing despite everything that had happened. "That is Corporal Williams, Dad. He has been taking good care of David. But this police officer has been treating him badly." Mrs. Chen looked at Marcus and then at the flag-covered casket in the vehicle. She began to cry softly, not from sadness alone, but from a mixture of grief and gratitude. She walked directly to Marcus, ignoring Murphy completely. "Thank you," she said, bowing slightly in the traditional way of showing respect. "Thank you for bringing our son home." Marcus straightened and returned her bow. "Mrs. Chen, it has been my honor to escort Private Chen. Your son served with distinction, and he deserves every bit of respect we can give him." Mr. Chen joined his wife and shook Marcus's hand firmly. "We have been waiting for you. We prepared food, we cleaned our house, we invited our friends to meet you. David wrote about soldiers like you, good men who take care of each other." The crowd watched this touching scene with deep emotion. Many people were wiping their eyes as they saw the dignity and grace of the Chen family, even in their moment of grief. A news reporter approached with her microphone. "Mr. and Mrs. Chen, can you tell us about your son?" Mrs. Chen looked at the camera with pride shining through her tears. "David was good boy. He worked hard in school. He helped in our restaurant every day after classes. When he joined Army, we were scared, but we were proud too." Mr. Chen nodded and continued the story. "David sent money home every month, not because we asked, but because he wanted to help. He said Army taught him about honor and duty. He said serving America was a way to thank country that gave our family new life." The reporter turned to Marcus. "Corporal Williams, can you tell us about Private Chen's military service?" Marcus spoke clearly and with obvious respect for the fallen soldier. Private Chen was an excellent soldier. His commanding officers said he was always first to volunteer for difficult assignments. He helped train new soldiers and was known for his kindness to everyone he served with. He received several commendations for his service, including one for saving 2 fellow soldiers during an attack. Officer Rodriguez had been listening to everything. He walked over to Murphy, who was standing apart from the group, still looking angry and defiant. "Dale, do you understand what is happening here?" Rodriguez asked quietly. "This family lost their son. This soldier is doing one of the most important jobs in the military, and you are treating him like a criminal." Murphy crossed his arms. "I don't care about any of that. He was driving suspiciously, and I had every right to stop him." Officer Walsh joined the conversation. "Dale, look around you. Look at these people. Look at this family. What exactly was suspicious about a military escort vehicle driving carefully and following all traffic laws?" Before Murphy could answer, another car arrived. This one belonged to Chief Patricia Morrison, head of the Millbrook Police Department. She had been called by dispatch when they received multiple reports about the incident. She stepped out of her car and immediately assessed the situation. Chief Morrison saw the military vehicle, the flag-draped casket, the grieving family, the crowd of angry citizens, and her officer standing defiantly in the middle of it all. She had been a police officer for 25 years and had never seen anything quite like this. She walked directly to Marcus and extended her hand. "Corporal Williams, I am Chief Morrison. On behalf of our department, I want to apologize for what has happened here today." Marcus shook her hand respectfully. "Thank you, Chief Morrison. I just want to complete my mission and get Private Chen to his family." The chief nodded and then turned to face Murphy with fire in her eyes. Chief Morrison's face showed a mixture of anger and embarrassment as she looked at Officer Murphy. She had received phone calls from the mayor, the county commissioner, and even the state police about what was happening on her watch. The videos were already spreading across social media, and the story was being picked up by news stations across the region. "Murphy, step away from the vehicle and come speak with me immediately," Chief Morrison ordered in a voice that left no room for argument. Murphy reluctantly walked over to where the chief stood, away from the crowd but still within hearing distance of many people. His defiant expression had not changed, but there was now a hint of worry in his eyes. "Explain to me exactly what happened here," Chief Morrison demanded. Murphy straightened his shoulders and tried to sound official. "I observed a suspicious vehicle driving through town. The driver appeared nervous when I attempted a routine traffic stop. I followed proper procedures for investigating suspicious activity." Chief Morrison looked at him with disbelief. "Dale, that is a military escort vehicle with a flag-draped casket clearly visible. The driver is in full dress uniform. What exactly did you find suspicious about that?" "You can't be too careful these days," Murphy replied stubbornly. "Anyone can get a uniform. Anyone can put a flag on a box. I was doing my job." The chief shook her head slowly. She had worked with Murphy for 8 years and had received complaints about his behavior before, but nothing like this. "Dale, you are suspended from duty immediately, pending a full investigation." Murphy's face turned red with anger. "You can't suspend me for doing my job. I have rights. I have a union." "You have the right to remain silent," Chief Morrison said coldly. "I suggest you use it before you make this situation any worse for yourself." She turned away from Murphy and walked back to where Marcus stood with the Chen family. The crowd had grown even larger and more news vans were arriving. The story was spreading rapidly across the internet, with hashtags like "Save Your Soldiers" and "Respect the Fallen" trending on social media. "Corporal Williams," Chief Morrison said formally, "you are free to continue your mission. We will provide you with a police escort to ensure you reach your destination safely." Marcus nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Chief Morrison. The Chen family has been through enough already." Mrs. Chen approached the chief with tears in her eyes. "Thank you for stopping this. We just want to bury our son with honor." Chief Morrison took Mrs. Chen's hands gently. "Ma'am, I am deeply sorry for what happened today. This does not represent the values of our police department or our community. Your son was a hero, and he deserves to be treated as such." Meanwhile, Officer Rodriguez was trying to calm down Murphy, who was becoming increasingly agitated as he realized the seriousness of his situation. "Dale, you need to think about what you are going to do next," Rodriguez said quietly. "This is not going away. The whole thing is on video. The family is here. The news is here. You need to find a way to make this right." But Murphy was too proud and too angry to listen to reason. "I did nothing wrong," he insisted. "I was following department procedures. If they want to throw me under the bus to look good for the cameras, that's their choice." Officer Walsh approached them with her phone in her hand. "Dale, you need to see this. The video of you pushing the corporal has been viewed over 1 million times already. The comments are not good." Murphy grabbed the phone and watched the footage of himself shoving Marcus in the chest, while the soldier remained calm and respectful. He saw how bad it looked, but instead of feeling ashamed, he became even more defensive. "This is all edited to make me look bad," Murphy said, handing the phone back to Walsh. "They are not showing the whole story." Chief Morrison overheard Murphy's comments and walked back over to him. "Dale, I have watched the complete video from multiple angles. I have spoken to witnesses. I have heard testimony from the deceased soldier's family. There is no version of this story that makes your actions acceptable." She looked around at the crowd of people who were watching every move. "You assaulted a United States soldier who was performing one of the most sacred duties in military service. You showed disrespect to a fallen hero and his grieving family. You embarrassed our department and our entire community." Murphy opened his mouth to argue, but Chief Morrison held up her hand to stop him. "You will report to my office first thing Monday morning. Until then, you are suspended without pay. Your badge and weapon will be collected immediately." The crowd began to applaud as they watched Murphy hand over his badge to Chief Morrison. 3 days after the incident, Detective Lisa Martinez sat in her office surrounded by stacks of papers, video files, and witness statements. As the lead investigator for the Internal Affairs Division, she had been assigned to conduct a thorough review of Officer Murphy's actions. What she discovered was far worse than anyone had expected. The first witness to come forward was Officer Jennifer Walsh, who had worked with Murphy for 2 years. She sat across from Detective Martins with nervous hands and a worried expression. "I should have spoken up before," Walsh began. "Dale has a pattern of targeting people based on their race. I have seen him pull over black drivers for no real reason dozens of times." Detective Martinez took careful notes. "Can you give me specific examples?" Walsh nodded. "Last month, he stopped a black businessman 3 times in 1 week. The man was driving to work every morning, same route, same time. Dale claimed he looked suspicious each time, but the man was just going to his office." She continued with more examples. 2 months ago, Dale arrested a black teenager for walking through a white neighborhood. He said the kid was casing houses for burglary, but the teenager was just walking home from school. Officer Rodriguez was the next to be interviewed. He had worked with Murphy for 5 years and had even more disturbing stories to tell. "Dale talks differently when he thinks no one important is listening," Rodriguez explained. "He makes racist comments about black people, Hispanic people, Asian people. He says things like they do not belong in our town." Detective Martinez leaned forward. "Did you ever report these comments?" Rodriguez looked ashamed. "I should have, but Dale is senior to me. He said if I caused trouble for him, he would make my life difficult. I was afraid for my job." The investigation expanded beyond the police department. Citizens who had remained silent for years began calling the station to report their own experiences with Murphy. Mrs. Johnson, an elderly black woman, came to the station with her daughter. "That officer pulled me over 6 months ago," Mrs. Johnson said. "I was driving to church, same as I do every Sunday. He made me get out of the car and searched everything. He said I looked like someone who had committed a crime, but he would not tell me what crime." Her daughter added, "My mother has lived in this town for 40 years. She has never even gotten a parking ticket, but that officer treated her like a criminal." Similar stories poured in throughout the week. Hispanic families reported being harassed during routine stops. Asian business owners said Murphy had visited their stores multiple times, looking for reasons to cite them for violations. Detective Martinez also discovered that Murphy had received several complaints over the years that had been dismissed or ignored. The complaints were buried in his personnel file, never properly investigated. She found records showing Murphy had attended department training sessions on cultural sensitivity and proper conduct, but his supervisors noted that he seemed resistant to the training and often made dismissive comments. The video evidence from the incident with Corporal Williams was analyzed frame by frame. Expert witnesses confirmed that Murphy had no legal justification for the stop. Marcus had been driving properly, his vehicle was clearly marked as military, and the flag-draped casket was visible through the windows. A military law expert was brought in to explain the significance of escort duty. Colonel Patricia Hayes, a retired military attorney, testified about the sacred nature of bringing fallen soldiers home. "What Officer Murphy did was not just assault," Colonel Hayes explained. "He interfered with a military funeral escort, which shows disrespect to a fallen service member, the military, and the family. This is considered one of the most serious breaches of honor in our society." The FBI became involved when civil rights violations were suspected. Agent Robert Kim reviewed all the evidence and interviewed additional witnesses. "This appears to be a clear pattern of racial discrimination and abuse of power," Agent Kim reported. "Officer Murphy used his position to target minority citizens repeatedly over several years." Social media continued to amplify the story. The video of Murphy pushing Marcus had been viewed over 10 million times. Celebrities, politicians, and military leaders all condemned Murphy's actions publicly. General Michael Thompson, who had served with distinction for 30 years, posted on social media, "Every service member who has escorted a fallen brother or sister home knows the sacred nature of this duty. What happened to Corporal Williams is an insult to every person who has ever worn the uniform." The local newspaper ran a front-page story titled "Pattern of Abuse: How One Officer's Prejudice Hurt Our Community." The article detailed years of complaints and incidents that had been overlooked or covered up. Murphy remained defiant throughout the investigation. When questioned by Detective Martinez, he refused to admit any wrongdoing. "I was doing my job," Murphy insisted. "If people do not like how I do my job, that is their problem, not mine." But the evidence was overwhelming, and the consequences were building like a storm. 1 year later, Corporal Marcus Williams stood at a podium in the Millbrook Community Center, looking out at an audience of police officers, military personnel, and community members. The same room where angry town meetings had been held after the incident was now filled with people working together to create positive change. Marcus wore his dress uniform with pride, the same uniform that Officer Murphy had disrespected that terrible day. But today was about moving forward, not looking back. Today was about honor, respect, and building bridges between communities. "When I began my escort mission for Private David Chen," Marcus began, his voice clear and strong, "I never imagined it would lead to this moment. I was simply doing my duty, bringing a fallen hero home to his family." The audience listened carefully as Marcus continued. "What happened that day was painful and wrong. But from that pain, our community has grown stronger. We have learned important lessons about respect, justice, and the power of standing up for what is right." In the front row sat the Chen family, who had become close friends with Marcus over the past year. Mrs. Chen smiled through her tears as she remembered how Marcus had completed his mission despite everything that had happened. David had been buried with full military honors, and his memory had inspired positive changes throughout the community. Chief Morrison sat nearby, representing the transformed police department. After Murphy's firing and the investigation that followed, she had worked tirelessly to rebuild trust with the community. New training programs had been implemented, and officers now received regular education about cultural sensitivity and proper conduct. "We cannot change what happened," Chief Morrison had said at a previous meeting, "but we can make sure it never happens again. We have a responsibility to serve all members of our community with equal respect and dignity." The police department had also established a new citizen review board to investigate complaints against officers. Community members from different backgrounds now had a voice in ensuring that law enforcement served everyone fairly. Officer Rodriguez, who had found the courage to speak up during the investigation, had been promoted to sergeant and put in charge of the new community relations program. He worked directly with local schools, businesses, and neighborhood groups to build positive relationships between police and citizens. "I should have spoken up sooner about Murphy's behavior," Rodriguez had admitted publicly. "But I learned that staying silent when we see wrong makes us part of the problem. Now I teach other officers that we have a duty to stop bad behavior, not ignore it." The David Chen Memorial Scholarship had grown beyond anyone's expectations. Donations from across the country had created a fund that would help dozens of young people pursue education and military service. The first recipients were being announced that very day. Sarah Chen, now working as a nurse practitioner, had used her brother's story to advocate for better treatment of military families. She spoke regularly at conferences and training sessions, helping others understand the sacred nature of military service and sacrifice. Marcus had also found a new mission beyond his military duties. He traveled to police departments across the country, sharing his story and helping train officers about proper interaction with military personnel and respectful treatment of all citizens. "Respect is not something we give only to people who look like us or think like us," Marcus told the audience. "Respect is something we give to every human being because we are all part of the same community." The changes in Millbrook had attracted national attention. The small town had become a model for how communities could heal and grow stronger after facing difficult truths about racism and abuse of power. As for Dale Murphy, he had been sentenced to 2 years in prison for assault and civil rights violations. He lost his house, his pension, and his family. Even after his release, he struggled to find work or rebuild his life. His hatred and prejudice had cost him everything. But the story was not really about Murphy's downfall. It was about how ordinary people had chosen to do the right thing when faced with injustice. It was about a community that had looked at itself honestly and decided to change for the better. Marcus concluded his speech with words that would be remembered long after that day. Private David Chen died serving his country and protecting the freedoms we all enjoy. The best way to honor his memory is to treat each other with the respect and dignity that every person deserves. The audience rose in applause, not just for Marcus, but for the journey they had all taken together toward justice and understanding.